handful of fantastic speakers. They all come from all walks of life. We may not agree with every single thing that they do with their lives, what the exposure they put out there, but we've got one common goal, and that common goal is the protection of children. The protection of children is the most important thing in the world right now.
It's Kath Watkins. Woo! So Kath has been, well, she's actually our top researcher here at Public Child Protection Wales. Fantastic researcher. She's been exposing the truth for years and years, but has dedicated the last couple of years to exposing the truth with regards to this education and what is really going on. So, Kath is actually going to be talking about pornography and the dangers that this does, or even on the adult mind, but on mastathons through Liberty Tactics with Lou Collins, and they have raised about 20,000 altogether for this fundraiser. They've been absolutely incredible. Not only have they raised all this money, like each of these podcastathons, mind, they were up, I think it was 30 hours each, so they were up consistently speaking to fantastic guests, raising awareness through their platform and through the platforms of the guests that they had on. So, you know, I can't speak good enough about Kath and Lou. It's absolutely amazing. They're incredible human beings. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you now to Kath Watkins. Massive round of applause. Woo!
Speak close. Can you hear me, guys? Right, I do apologise in advance because I do have to speak about the darkest side of the sexual liberation movement, because it goes hand in hand with the education and where it's coming from and what it's doing to well, children and adults alike. But the reason I'd be speaking about it is because they're using RSE to basically say, you know, well, we got to teach them about pornography, because we all know now that pornography is widely accessible at the click of a button 24/7 for any child who's got a device in their hand. It's massively, massively, massively dangerous. So Lisa was talking about Alfred Kinsey, and I'm glad she did it and not me, because otherwise I'd have had to brought the two of them together. But Alfred Kinsey's data are obviously on child sex abuse. He was an evil man, and I implore anyone to go and actually look at what he was doing. But it was because of Alfred Kinsey that in 1955 they changed the American Law Institute Model Penal Code. So the legal system based around the 50s is when it came out. The only publications you had was Top Shelf. It wasn't online. You had Playboy, Penthouse, and Hustler, and she was asked by the Department of Justice for the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention in 1983 to do a study on soft pornography. No such thing as soft pornography, by the way, and I'll tell you why that is in a minute. So she and her research team got every single, you know, magazine for those three publications between those 30 years, between 1953 and 1983, and this study took 2 years. I've read this study. It's 4,000 pages. 2,000 pages are a methodology, so, you know, that's your coding analysis and whatever. But it's one of the most, well, it was one of its kind at the time, because she was the first one to actually show you how dangerous that pornography was for, in particular, the child. The adult as well, but more in particular the child, where children would get hold of these magazines. And what do children do? They copy what they see. We all know that they copy what they do. So there was a time between the 50s and the 50s and the 80s, and obviously it's massively increased since, where we were seeing children abusing other children. And what would happen, because they got no capacity for this at all. Children don't know what they do, you know, especially young children. They don't know, they're just looking at it. You know, it's in mum, dad's bedroom or whatever. It's game for them to, you know, and there were situations, and I won't explain them here because they're very graphic, and I wouldn't want to, there's probably children around, I need to be careful with what I say. But basically, she showed the dangers of what pornography was doing to the child. And like I say, I would go and have a... There's been plenty of studies since, actually, to show the same thing. So, from a chemical point of view, pornography can be, and is, in many cases, something people don't want to admit, but it is the fact, and it's the truth. It's an addiction. It can be an addiction, and it runs across the same neural pathway as chemical addiction, right? That's why we derive pleasure from it. But obviously, the brain of a child is not fully developed. It's dangerous for an adult to watch pornography, even if they've never watched it in their life. If they start watching pornography as an adult, their brain wastes away. Their prefrontal cortex literally wastes away. It's not my opinion, that's scientific fact. Meaning that the part of the brain responsible for evaluating risk, reward and danger is jeopardized. That's in an adult. That's why lower inhibitions go and everything, you know, and abuse will creep in. If you look, there were FBI reports done, plenty of them actually, that show serial rapist murderers, they often admit, and it's often found in their possession, pornography. They're highly, highly influenced by pornography. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who watches porn is a serial rapist murderer, but everybody who's a serial rapist murderer watches pornography, right? So the correlation is absolutely there. There's no doubt about that. So they did a study to show, so like a chemical drug, what are we doing? We're chasing that high. We're chasing that first high. But as we build tolerance, you need more of that drug to even get to that place. And that's exactly the same as porn. So where we say soft porn, which might be a lady with no top on, eventually that's not going to be enough for the consumer. So we get, this is why we end up with really extreme genres of porn, and I mean extreme. I can't say it because there's too many children around, but I think we all know how sick that this industry can get. Child trafficking, human trafficking, pornography, they go hand in hand. This really is that bad. So in terms of the brain, what it does, so like this, we're looking for that pleasure thingy, we need more of it. So they did a study, and it's called the Coolidge effect, and it's with rats. So what they did is they put one male rat, in a big tank of loads of female rats on heat. Now that male rat basically mated with every single one of those female rats numerous times until it was absolutely exhausted and it passed out on the floor. Even when the female rats were nudging he was no. Then they put a new rat inside that tank, a new rat, and the rat who was exhausted got up to mate with that rat. And that's exactly what they started doing in humans. So they would sit there and they would watch a pornography scene, right? And eventually the consumer would lose arousal. So they need something harder and stronger. And that is why we've got extreme violent pornography. And there are children who see it. A teacher told me she was in a classroom with a bunch of 8-year-olds. 8 years old. You've got to be careful giving your devices to children, guys, because they can access it very easily. And she heard the one 8-year-old boy say to the other group of 8-year-olds, you need to get on Pornhub. Now we're talking little children who have absolutely no capacity for what they're doing. And another case where another 8-year-old girls, 2 of them were watching porn. One 8-year-old girl watches it all day long. Now what that does to the brain, well, it's brain damaging, as I say. It completely, well, their brains are not developed yet anyway until your mid-20s at least, especially the prefrontal cortex. So not only are we turning adults into sex offenders, and that is, I will go as far as to say that, not every adult, but it obviously is there, it's rewiring a child's brain in the same way. And that is why we're seeing such massive influxes in, sexual abuse in general, paedophilia, because that's what Judith Reisman found in those reports of those Playboy magazines. She picked out 6,004 images, cartoons, pictures, whatever you want to call them, of children involved in them. And what that does psychologically in that arousal state when inhibitions are lowered, this is why we're catching people. This is why so many people, we're talking, there's a scene, and I won't say what it is, but it's the most disgusting thing. And I'm well researched in this. I'm quite hardened to it. I've done it for a long time, so I can say it. But this scene, I'm not even going to say. But what frightened me to death was that there were 50 million viewers of that scene of pornography, which I really can't tell you what it is. It's that bad. But the biggest searches on pornography now are teen porn. So they're already, and like I say, there's tens of millions. So it's not just a rarity that this is happening. We've got millions and millions of subscribers all around the world, right? All around the world. Now, if we want to stop the education, they're bringing it into school, saying, I think people think perhaps they're being taught the consequence of it, maybe. No. They're not. Once they get to secondary school, they're taught, well, it's not real, but it can be part of a healthy sex life. It's complete false information. And they're actually asking children what sort of genre of pornography they want. They're not teaching the constant pornography, they're teaching them to go away and look at it. We're already in a mess and we have to reverse it. We have to reverse it. And there was something that Judith Reisman had said in one of her, and I can remember I was talking to Kim and I was a bit stressed out because I was thinking, this is too big. I don't even know how we're going to change this. I do not, there's that many people invested in it. Blackmail from higher up, elites, whatever, right? How are we going to get rid of it? And Judith Reisman said, the women can raise the alarm, they can shout as much as they want, and that helps, that does help. But it's the men, and I'm not saying that women don't watch it because they do, but it's mostly men, they have to stop subscribing. So because the sex industry is too big, it's worth trillions of dollars. They're not just going to take it down. They can get rid of me. I got about 20 Facebook's account. I'm not allowed on YouTube. I'm not allowed on Twitter. They can censor me like that, but they can't censor pornography for children. They want them to see it. They want them to see it. And I'm just going to end on one thing, right? Because I know this is a really uncomfortable subject. A lot of people don't like talking about it. But from people who have given up pornography as an addiction then, they were saying there's 3 things that can happen. 1 is 100% fixable, so you can stop watching it. 2 is probably one of the hardest things you're ever going to do. And 3, you don't have a choice if you want a proper relationship, because there is no other way. Erectile dysfunction, they treat it as it's normal now. You see adverts on the telly in between things going, oh, you know, but that's not normal. But that's because of chronic masturbation through watching pornography. Do you know what I mean? All of these things are actually, you know, they're real, but we just ignore them, and that's the elephant in the room. You often find when somebody, you know, there's an article in the paper, say for, you know, an abuse, you know, a sexual abuse case or whatever, they'll say they were watching pornography, but it's like nobody really picks on that up on that little bit, you know. And if we're gonna change things for the kids, we have to remove the cause, and the cause is pornography. So thank you guys, thank you.
And then to our final speaker, which is Kimberly Isherwood. Woo! So first of all, we're going to have Peter. Peter is a freelance schools coach, a football coach in schools. So he indeed knows what is going on in the schools. So he's just going to say a couple of words. So if we can have a massive round of applause for Peter, please. Woo!
That one. I like it. Right. Yeah, just want to say a couple of things really. First things first, why are people actually taking this nonsense? You know, I think really we've got to pull the kids out of school. The only way these people are actually going to take notice is if we pull the kids out of school en masse. If we do that, then they'll take notice. Until then, that's it. You know, leaving your kid in school is literally de facto consent for them to give them whatever they want. They can teach them whatever they want. We need to tell them, no, this is enough. Enough is enough. Let kids be kids. This is ridiculous. You know, I've seen it in schools firsthand. I'm like, what on earth is this? You know, young as 3, like, really? And have these people lost the plot? Because it seems like it. It really does. We've got to boycott schools. Pull them out. Pull them out en masse. Make a statement. We pull the kids out en masse, then they've got to listen. Because I don't think anything else is going to work, if we've got to be honest here. Alright.
Now, and we are going to have our final speaker. I think you all know Kim, don't you? I think you all know her. If you haven't seen her, you'll certainly have heard her. So if we can have a massive round of applause for Kim. Woo!
She's turning into a murder pit bull every day, Lucia is. So guys, thank you all for coming here. It is incredible. What a turnout. This is amazing. I don't even know what to talk about and never do. But one thing I think is really important to address right now is institutional abuse. Because we are told schools are places of safeguarding. Well, I am here to tell you they are not, okay? Now, I can go back years and years of studies and reports and sex scandals in our schools and things like that. But let's bring it up to the current time. Let's look at the independent inquiry into child sex abuse, shall we? So a recent report, a 7-year-long study published by the Independent Inquiry into Child Sex Abuse, tells us that sex abuse in schools is, and I quote, an open secret. With over 40% of children being abused in school, are aware of abuse happening to other children. That's shocking, isn't it? But schools are places of safeguarding. Let's discuss their safeguarding, shall we? Level 2. Level 2, and they think they are top of the food chain. You speak to them about institutional abuse and they say, what? What's institutional abuse? It's what's going on in the classrooms in the place where you work, love. That's institutional abuse. It's in the schools, it's in the sports clubs, it's in the religious establishments. Where there is an institution, where there are children, there is abuse. Another report published by the Independent Inquiry into Child Sex Abuse tells us schools are reluctant to report abuse. So, but if you speak to teachers, the children need this education so then they can report abuse. So what happens if they do report abuse? Let's look at this system. If it is true and they need this education to report abuse, let's have a look what happens. Well, everyone in Public Child Protection Wales is level 2 safeguard trained. What is their job? The level 2, the same as a teacher. What if there's an area of concern? What are they to do? They're to report it to a safeguard lead. Who is safeguard lead? Well, that's me. But that's only level 3. So what's my job? My job then is to decide, does this information go to the police? Does it go to social services? Or does it go to the safeguarding board? It's a report and pass system. But an independent inquiry into child sex abuse tells us schools are reluctant to report abuse. So if they do report it, it's simply getting passed on. You look at another study then, this was actually written by my mentor, Dr. Sue Roberts. This was jointly commissioned by Barnardo's and the Welsh Government. This is in social services. So, these reports are being passed to social services and the social workers aren't even trained in child sex abuse for a start. They don't know what to do with disclosure. They don't know what to do with it. But these are the people the teachers believe this information's being passed on to. These are the people that teachers believe this stuff is going to be in safe hands if they actually report it. I've done a study myself because I'm actually, I'm a child from the streets. This is how I got into this. I'm a child from the streets, homeless on and off from the age of 14 to 21. Then I went into a youth offenders institute, and that's where I discovered child sex abuse and institutional abuse on a mass scale. That's where my passion came from. Sorry, guys, it's got
You're a criminologist.
Sorry guys, I've got to say my mind's gone blank. So yes, my passion comes from the institution. I'm a child from the streets. Nothing is too hot and nothing is too heavy for me. I'm not a prude, okay? I'm also a mother of a child with additional needs. So I've got these qualifications in the criminological aspect, okay? I am qualified. I'm a criminologist. I've got a degree in social policy as well and a master's degree. During my master's degree, I did a study. This study was on the Education Workforce Council Fitness to Practice panels. So what this is where teachers have been reprimanded for things, okay? You can access this data yourself. Go and have a look at it. But it's only accessible for 6 months. Each case is only accessible for 6 months. So my study, it was called, To Which Extent is the Educational Environment a Risky Space? And I measured this in 2 ways. I had a look at the data from the Education Workforce Council, and I measured the weight of responsibility unfairly placed on the teachers. So let's look at the weight of responsibility unfairly placed on the teachers. This is a complex specialist field, okay? Teachers do not know about child sex abuse, all right? They don't know about institutional abuse. So if you're supposed to protect a child from child sex abuse, but you don't understand the mind of a perpetrator, what on earth are you doing? What are you doing? If I want to protect my car from a car thief, I think like a car thief. If I protect my house from a burglar, I think like a burglar. But to protect children from predators, these teachers don't know nothing about predators. So there you have it. There's a weight of responsibility unfairly placed on the teachers. Then I looked at the data from the Education Workforce Council. Now I only had 6 months data to work with, okay? So 6 months data went into my study. But I watched this data from September 2020, and I can tell you with full conviction that those fitness to practice panels, a third are sexually motivated. A third of those fitness to practice panels are sexually motivated, and these teachers are getting struck off for 2 years. When you look at these cases, okay, there's grooming behaviour within these cases. This grooming behaviour is referenced in the Sexual Offences Act 2003. So who do we have dealing with these cases? It's the Education Workforce Council. But who are they? Do we have a policeman? Do we have a probation officer? Do we have a social worker? Do we have an ex-teacher? No, we don't. We have people who are cherry-picked by the Welsh Government. This is jobs for the boys. There is no checks and balances in place. So when I came across this sex education 10 years ago, okay, I thought it was insane. There was an article about Spain, and I had to look into it. I was, you know, the World Health Organization teaching children from birth about masturbation. So I looked into it. I looked into it far and deep, and I understood where it came from. So you can understand how I felt in January 2020 when I discovered an article saying the Welsh Government were legislating sex education from the age of 3 with no parental opt-out. I am a massive supporter of children's rights. I am a massive promoter of sexual safeguarding and sex education. I am a child from the streets. Nothing is too hot or heavy for me. But I am here now leading this fight against that because I know I went to our documents. It took me literally minutes to find this reference throughout our documentation. So I was naive back then. And I sent emails to the Education Minister, Kirsty Williams. I emailed so many people I thought they had made a mistake. It wasn't long before my naivety changed into absolute outrage. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew what this education was about, okay? We did a petition. So when we put the petition together through the Senate. Do you know what they did to us? They removed our links from the petition. They removed our links and stopped you guys reading about your children's sexual and reproductive rights. I clicked on a link they put in there. It was a pro-abortion website. So I went off my head. They removed that link, but they left our petition an absolute mockery. They made a mockery of it. They had influenced the information we could put out, but they didn't just do that. They gave us a phone call on a Thursday night. We needed 5,000 signatures for a debate. But they phoned us up on a Thursday and they said, if you don't get 10,000 signatures, if you don't get 5,000 signatures by Monday, it goes up to 10,000. So what do? We absolutely smashed it, and we had those 5,000 signatures by the Monday. So, Kirsty Williams, the Education Minister, had to respond to our petition. And throughout this petition, you can access this on the Senate website, you can access it on our website. She responded and said, we were saying this is a global sex education which sexualizes children and reads like pie policies. What did she say? This is wholly inaccurate and false. But in the next paragraph she said it's co-constructed by UNESCO. So she referenced the global education. But then we had to respond to her. And you've got limited space, okay? You've only got, I think it's 4 pieces of paper you can do. but I submitted 17 pieces of evidence with our petition. 17 pieces of evidence that are recently coming out in papers, you know, the newspaper, and now suddenly the Welsh ministers are outraged. We're the same ones on the petition committee, the same ones who sat there live on Senedd TV and said, we don't know what's misinformation and what's not misinformation. Well, you are the government and that is the evidence. But what did they actually do? They told us we're going to do a watch and brief on this. The same night, we didn't discover this for 8 months later. The same night, they published a document online and they said we had issued misinformation. They took it a step further when we put together leaflets with all the information and the lesson resources from around the UK. We referenced everything. What did the government do? A press release. They issued a statement saying this is misinformation. But we secured a judicial review. We are the only country in the UK to successfully secure a judicial review against this education. And what do we do? What do we do during that judicial review? We referenced evidence and we proved it's the Welsh Government giving you misinformation, not Public Child Protection Wales, not us, it is them. However, they still took our parental rights. They've removed our rights to our children's education from age 36 months. The Welsh Government lawyer, Mr. Moffat, he's one of these high flyers, he's well into the family law. Everybody who's dealt with social services, you can imagine what type of barrister that is. Anyhow, he specialises in family law and he argued there is no such thing as parental rights. There never was parental rights. And if they did exist, they'd be minute anyway. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the judicial review. That's the judicial system for England and Wales. So if you think this is a Welsh problem, if you think they are crucifying us in Wales and you're okay in England, you're okay in Scotland, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same storm, sorry. We're just in different boats. If we've lost our rights in Wales, if a barrister can get up and argue that parents' rights aren't a thing, using legislation from the England and Wales judicial system, then you better bet your bottom dollar that you've got no rights as well.
Truth, girl,
So,
truth. You know that's the fucking, sorry, truth.
but I'm not a conformist. And I'm not going to listen to anyone that tells me I've got no rights to protect my children. They are my children. I give birth to them. I raised them. I breastfed. I didn't chest feed. I'm a breastfeeder. I am a mother. And I will not give up on our children. I started this fight in defense of my youngest son. He was 12 when it began, he is now 15. Today I stand here fighting for my grandchildren I am yet to meet, because I have not raised children to fight this system. Therefore, I will be the person to fight this system.
Oi! You're not alone! You're not alone, girl! London!
I have offered all 60 ministers of the Senedd a debate. Sharp End, ITV Sharp End, a political programme in Wales. They invited me on for a live debate with Jeremy Miles. I obviously agreed. But the thing is, Jeremy Miles didn't want to know. So, I have followed Jeremy Miles. He was in an event the other day, as a business event, and we tried to get in there. We went in, we were booked in under false names, and I was going to dress that man. It was a business meeting, but I believe that children's education is everybody's business. So I believed I should have been in there. Nevertheless, they found out what we were doing and they pulled our seats. So what do we do instead? We pulled them outside with our PA system. And they could hear every single word inside. Jeremy Miles was going redder and redder and redder on that stage. Jeremy Miles knows we are coming for him. Jeremy Miles has no children. Jeremy Miles' only qualification here regarding this sex education is his sexuality. So I put it to you, Mr. Miles, you're putting your sex life before my grandchildren. I don't think so, sunshine. Not in a month of Sundays.
Wanker!
So the politicians in the Senate are absolutely petrified. But a few of them are suddenly doing a bit of lip service. I call it lip service, right? They're saying the right things all of a sudden. But I give them the evidence 3 years ago. I personally wrote to all 16 members of the Conservative Party the day we issued Jeremy Miles with a letter before action. Where are they? Where are they? I'll tell you where they are. They are busy making statements to the media on behalf of our court case, a campaign they have never stood with, but they want the glory. They want to keep their seats. Well, for £250,000 a term, I bet they want to keep their seats, don't they? But we have had some breakthroughs in Westminster, to be fair. As you all know, this issue is kind of political, there's politics behind it all, but it is a cross-party issue. We have some Conservatives supporting it, we have some Labour Party supporting it, we've got members of every single political party for and against this education. So now I don't look at the system as in political parties, left wing, right wing. I look at it in simple terms. Are you the human race or are you the human disgrace? That's what we are dealing with now. And I am only interested in dealing with the human race. So we went to a meeting in Parliament yesterday. I will mention no names. I don't feel names are necessary at this time. They agreed Wales has been sidelined. Scotland gets in the media. England gets in the media. We have got the most high-profile case in the whole of the UK, and we get tumbleweed. Why? Why do we get tumbleweed? I'll tell you exactly why. Look around you. Look around you. They can't point a camera into this crowd. They don't know if they're speaking to a lesbian or a Christian. We are the only platform in the whole of the UK who has united every single faith and every single sexuality based on one thing and one thing only: the protection of our children. Like branches of a tree, we will all grow in different directions, but it's our roots that keep us together. Our roots are the children. And once we've covered the ground underneath our feet, once we've laid these solid foundations, then we are free to grow in different directions. But the state on the system right now, we have no choice but to come together. We are not into this inclusion, we're not into diversity, because you know what? We've been too tolerant. We are blended, we are shoulder to shoulder, we are the human race. We believe there is one split in society: adulthood and childhood. Every single person under the age of 18 is a minor, and every minor in this country needs to be protected. We hear time and time and time again, this is about rights. Rights for this, rights for that. Well, do you know what? With rights come responsibility. Yeah. Where are they to accept responsibility? I don't see them. So we are here. We take responsibility for our own children. They have no say. They do what we say. They think they're a law unto themselves. And some of them are lawless as well. But we will be challenging them at every single level. Hence why we've suddenly had meetings in the Parliament. But again, guys, it's lip service. What's on the horizon? What's the sudden change of heart? Is it a sudden change of heart? Or is it an election coming?
Exactly.
They are scared. They are scared for their seats because we will be challenging in every single election. We'll be challenging in the MPs, the Westminster elections. We will challenge them in the Senate elections. And we will challenge them in every single council election. We no longer are naive to this system. We understand exactly how crooked it is. Are we in it to win it? That would be nice. I doubt that's going to happen, so we are in it to spin it, okay? Rome was not built in a day, but it burnt down in a day. And that's what we are going to do. We're going to set fire to their backsides until things change in this country. And things will change for good. So we at Public Child Protection Wales, we've got one mission and one mission only. And it's to make Wales the safest place in the world for raising and educating your children. We are going to start small and then we're going to take them all. We are and we will unite this kingdom. And we can only do it from the bottom up, guys. We take the power out of their hands. We can counteract this education as well. We've also been contacted by another member of Parliament. I'm quite excited about this. The question has come up about correct terminology. Correct terminology for body parts. So they actually want to put a question to the Department of Education. So what we now got this opportunity to address this once and for all in Parliament. But these politicians need to be serious. They need to learn the information. It's not there at a click of a button. You can't just access it in one source. These men need to learn. I am prepared to invest time into these politicians to give them the knowledge and to arm them with everything they need to go in there and represent our children properly like they should have since day one. Failure to act will simply mean we will challenge their seats. So guys, I'm not going to say much more than that now because we've had loads of great speakers today, haven't we? But all I want to say is we are waiting on our appeal. We have appealed against the judge's decision. We will continue to challenge them in the courts because we simply believe the higher the court, the louder the message. So if things don't go our way in the appeal, I'll see you all in the Supreme Court over there. Is it, guys, in about a year's time? What? And failing that, guys, you better renew your passports because we are going to Strasbourg, okay? That's where we are going. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you, Andy, who's travelled from Ireland. Thank you, everyone who's travelled from all around England. I'm going to pass you over now to our little dynamite there, Lucia. Just thank you all for coming. Our children need us, okay, guys? They cannot speak for themselves. They can only speak... Thank you.
Anna's just given me and Kim an envelope here. I don't know whether to open it now or I might cry if I do.
Open it! Open it! Gotta open it now.
Thank you for all that you do.
Woo! Do you know, the support we get, the love we get from people, I'm going to try now. The support and love we get from people is phenomenal, okay? We don't do this for us. We don't want to be doing it. We're doing it for the children. We don't want praise. We want everyone to stand up, okay? This praise is lovely, but normal human beings don't need to do this because in a normal society this would not be happening. Okay, guys? This is our place to change things now. This has happened during our time on this earth, alright? This is our moment. Let's leave a place behind that we can be proud of. The future is not tomorrow. The future is not next week. It's not in 5 years' time. The future is the world that we leave behind for our children. Thank you for everything you do for us personally, and thank you all for the support.
Nice one, Kim. Just said that. Oh, thank you. Right, can we just have a massive round of applause for Kim?